All right, I'm really excited for this episode of the Delhi podcast with Spencer Dinwiddie, NBA player for the Brooklyn Nets, venture capitalist, and tech founder as well. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Now, before we get to the tech and venture capital stuff, I got to ask you about the Steve Nash hire. What are your thoughts on that? Having, one of the greatest point guards ever come in and be a head coach.
No, I mean, I loved it. Obviously, I made a comment. I think at this level, as you know, coaching is like 80% psychologist, right? And
Yeah.
definitely needing to manage and deal with and work with your best players. And so him already having that relationship with Katie and Kyrie is big time. And obviously everybody made statements about him not having coaching experience, but at the same time he's only one of the best point guards of all time. So, in terms of basketball credentials and credibility, I mean, there's not 50 other people with his resume. So, I think he's kind of automatically in any list, right?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I guess playing a similar position to learn what he was seeing off the pick and roll on a day-to-day basis is going to be pretty cool as well.
Oh yeah, no, that's gonna be a lot of fun picking his brain, and I think as point guards and combo guards, right, we have to be avid students of the game and avid learners, and who better to learn from than, like I said, one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you're pretty deep into the tech world. Can you tell me how you got into tech and startups?
Oh man, shoot, I think in terms of venture capital, I have an appetite for risk. I think understanding the landscape, where things are going, just looking at the world and things becoming more automated, trying to create more convenience out of life for people. I think that's just a natural progression, why it makes sense. I think as a founder, though, that more so has to deal with like applying technology to my industry and to areas of life that I live in every day. And then I guess kind of the same ethos, right? Like, how do I make life better for an entertainer? How do I make life easier or help this aspect of their life? So I think that's kind of how I got into it, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. And then you've been angel investing in a while. I guess what have you learned through that process? And can you talk about, one or two investments you've made and what you like about those companies?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been angel investing for a minute now. Obviously, with how my career path was and being on minimums and stuff, typically small checks. And I think the biggest thing that you have to realize is in VC, this isn't set your money aside and get 5% yield and all that stuff. Like, you're gonna hit one out every 100 times. So you have to understand you're gonna get a lot more no's, a lot more fails, a lot more bankrupt businesses and all that stuff than you are successes. And it's not glamorous. Like, everybody wants to talk about the Ubers, but they don't want to talk about the other 100 companies that they missed on. I would say, with that being said, though, my favorite investment is probably my most recent one, which would be Dapper Labs. Just because they're right at that intersection of basketball and blockchain. And for anybody that's following, they know, like, those are my two hats, and I love them. So what Dapper's doing is a lot of fun just to be a part of.
Yeah, and then Dapper have something coming up with the NBA as well. Can you talk a little bit about what they're doing there?
Yeah, NBA Top Shot. It's a blockchain based. I mean, I can't really say video game, but a blockchain based game. It revolves around collectibles and things of the sort. You get like these highlights and special moments and shots. And we're just seeing, like, in the world, like, people love rarity, they love scarcity, they love exclusivity. And blockchain has the capability to accurately prove that, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So, it's appealing to some of that psychology behind those situations.
Yeah, that's interesting because one of the companies I recently got into, Starstock, a sports card marketplace, kind of takes me back to my childhood trying to collect
Yeah.
some cards, and they're a lot harder to find in Australia. But if I found a news agent that had a pack of cards, I would try to get them. Have you been following the sports card space at all?
Yeah, a little bit actually, and talked to Lior over at Alt.
Yeah.
I know he's doing over there. The crazy thing is though, when I was a kid, I was less so into like sports cards as I was into like Pokemon cards.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you guys in terms of collecting cards, but I was all into the anime and things of that nature. So, but yeah, I'm right there with you.
No, that's cool. And then I think you're probably the only active player to have their own venture capital firm. Can you talk me through the process and the decision making you went through to, I guess, make that transition and decide to start that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of guys piggyback deals, which is very good. When you're getting to this space, I think you have like big firms, Sequoia, Andreessen, Horowitz, et cetera, and for guys that are kind of just getting started in venture, um, definitely I would say that's a perfect route to go. And then just kind of as you continue to grow a little bit in the space and you kind of get some qualified people to vet the deals for you. I mean, it sounds sexy, but it's probably a little bit more simplistic than it really is. Just because when you're in the NBA, as you know, like we're gonna get all types of deal flow, right? Like always. You know what I mean? Like that, some is gonna be up here where Google gave it to you, and then some's gonna be like where the dude down the street wanted to open, car wash or something, like you don't know. So, um, but I would say the biggest piece is always just who's doing the vetting of the deal flow. That's always the key. As an NBA player or a person with a little bit of money, deal flow probably isn't going to be your issue. It's going to be how you vet it. And so to piggyback big firms to start is always good. And then once you can maybe poach one or two people away that really are locked in and know what to look for, then you can make informed decisions and be ready to hit one out every 100 times.
Yeah, no, and I had a good chat to Rusty, who you're working with. How do you, I guess, build that relationship and decide to make the jump in with somebody else and decide to build something together? Because, like you said, it's a hit-driven business, and it can take a long time for
Yeah.
this to materialize. So, how do you go about that and view that, long term?
Yeah, I mean, to pair up with Rusty actually happened through my friend Sherrod, who I went to college with, and those two really kind of run that angle. I think Sherrod has a lot of general knowledge, a lot of general expertise, and is great at connecting people and finding things that are needed in a specific sense. And then obviously when it came to VC and finding somebody to vet deal flow. Rusty previously being with Madison Square Garden Ventures, having a lot of expertise in that area. And then now having those two kind of backing the process and, being, I guess, the funnel in a sense and saying like, hey, like, we know you got pitched 100 things, but, we thought 10 were solid and we thought 2 were great. So you probably should only look at, these 12. And if you want to see the other 100, let us know. But this is kind of what we got to, and then being able to take your time, read through, and try to educate yourself on those 12, and be willing. Like I said, though, you have to have that appetite for risk. You got to understand you may pick 11 out of the 12 that they showed you, and those were the 11 that messed up, and the 12th one that you said, "Nah, I'm not going to do it," is the one that takes off. You know what I mean? Like something like that happens all the time, right? So you just have to be ready for that.
Yeah. And then what specific verticals are you interested in and then the VC firm interested in?
The VC firm overall is interested in just the future of engagement, right? It's all about like fan engagement, community, like how to touch the people in a sense. My scope is typically a little bit more narrow than that. I fully believe in the mission of the future of engagement. But then I also just kind of add on like, and then Spencer has to kind of like it too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I love investing in companies that, I really and truly love their product because it makes all of the outreach or all of the extra, requirements or things that they naturally ask. You know what I mean? Like, cause they might say, hey, like Spencer, we know you put your 25,000 in or whatever it is, but we also would love if you did like 3 Instagram posts. You know what I mean? Or something of that nature. And I'm sitting there like, ah, I don't know if I want to post about this product that I don't really love. You know what I mean? So that's where it kind of narrows down. I love the future of engagement. I love trying to touch the people and things like that. But actually, I'll give you another company, for example, Lemon Perfect Water. I'm in that as well. And that's a very organic thing for me to be a part of, because if Yanni says, hey, Spence, like, are you drinking the water day, or could you do an Instagram post, or could you do this or that? Oh yeah, like, let's go. Like, I'm fine with that. I love the product. I drink it, on a semi-regular basis. So like, of course I'll post for you. It's no friction.
Yeah, no, it's definitely important to I guess back things that you 100% believe in and use. Now, can you talk a bit about what you did with your MBA contract? Explain what happened and where things are at with that, because obviously that got a lot of media attention. I know a lot of people were talking about it in locker rooms and
Yeah.
around practices and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, so basically what the whole premise of it is, right? Like the fan, again, so we almost kind of talked about the VC fund for a second, but the fan is the crown jewel of the entertainment industry, right? Like, if they pay money, we have a job. And so what I was kind of just showing is the precursor to the overall business. It was like proof of concept. Like, why can't I sell shares in my contract or my earnings, or democratize access to Spencer himself if I am the business, right? Like, every day we go out there, we play, and we leave it out on the floor. And quite honestly, like, that painting that we, make that night, that's what's being consumed by people. That's what's immortalized in that moment. That's what, everybody wants to be a part of. So, why can't I have this added access? And fan engagement really is what kind of lifts us up and helps us be who we are in this industry. So that's what it was really all about. And then other than that, you get the time value of money benefit, right? Like, everybody knows, like, if I get, $1 million today or $1 million over 20 years, like, one is going to be more beneficial to me. Like, that's just the way it works. So those were pretty much the two premises. And I mean, shoot, it went about as well as anything can be when you're kind of trailblazing, and legacy systems get mad at first. NBA got mad, and I had to kind of walk them down a little bit till they relaxed. And then, SEC Finra also wanted to meet and make sure I wasn't trying to rip off grandmothers and things of that nature. And so, getting through all that allowed us to kind of get to the place where, we're about to launch the actual, like, company itself. It's called Calaxy, and that's, Galaxy with a C. It's because I kept calling it the Creator Galaxy, and they told me to just name it that. As we were kind of going through this journey, and it's been a huge fun ride. It's been about 2 years now in the making, or 18 months to 2 years now in the making. And shoot, I mean, it's going to allow just creators and influencers and just people to build community and monetize themselves in some simplistic ways. Like, hey, Deli, I'm gonna give you $1 to follow me on Twitter, all the way up to I'm gonna securitize my NBA contract. It's gonna have a lot of flexibility in there, and hope that people can just engage more and monetize that engagement.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, can you just tell me what it's like to deal with the SEC or FINRA? Because I mean, that's pretty intense. I know the NBA is obviously a huge, powerful business, but
Yeah,
dealing with those two is pretty
it's
serious as
different.
well.
Yeah, it's different. I would say so. I'll break it down. Basically, like, dealing with the NBA is one thing, because you know them, right? So when you sit down and they're like upset or something, but you didn't do anything really wrong. I mean, it's almost like talking to mom and dad, where you're like, Ma, like, I know you're upset, but like, I didn't really do anything wrong. Like, you gotta relax. You know what I mean? And they're like, no, you can't do it. And I'm like, well, that's not true, because I can, but like, I don't want to be enemies here. Like, how do we partner? And then you work with them to partner, and take out some stuff they don't like, or add some stuff that they do like, et cetera, et cetera. Then you get down the road.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the SEC and FINRA, it's like, I don't know, like think like the Men in Black or something. Like, you end up on the phone, and you're just like, I hope, like, this interaction goes smooth, because obviously they have carte blanche to shut you down or do anything they really want to. But really, all they were doing was asking questions. They were just like, why'd you do this? Who are you doing it with? What are your partners? Like, what's the goal? Like, all these other things. They really were it's crazy because we think of government as this big bad thing, and a lot of times regulations stymie growth, but like really all they wanted to do is make sure I was approaching it from a legitimate perspective. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like they were trying to make sure I wasn't like, gonna do something, like I said, rip off the grandmas and run away and disappear, you know, I don't know, run a Ponzi scheme or something crazy like that. That's what they, wanted to make sure it wasn't gonna happen. And quite frankly, I was like, yeah, like here's the long-term business goals. Like it's a full business I'm building behind this. Like I have big picture vision. Like this is just the first thing. And they were cool with it. And so I was like, all right, like let's roll. And obviously lawyers have to talk to lawyers, and they did a great job. And shout out to, DLX law firm who I used during that first um, pilot. But yeah, I mean that's kind of how it went.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then what is your role in the company, and how did you get connected with the people around you to build it up? Because obviously, your main job is playing basketball, but then you've got
Yeah,
something that you're, putting your time and effort and energy into. And like you told me previously, this is your baby in the startup world,
yeah.
so you want to make sure, everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, so I'm founder. Obviously, use myself as proof of concept. The way you kind of go down that journey, I mean, I had contractors kind of building it to start, getting through a certain place. Once you kind of do proof of concept, people see you're legitimate. And then one of the things, like when you're willing to go out on a limb, and whether you fail or not, just kind of say like, here's what I believe in, here's who I am. Like people gravitate towards that honesty. And so I made a lot of connections during the time period of, just going back and forth with, legacy bodies and getting it off the ground. And by that time, I had made contacts with like Hedera Hashgraph and Chainlink and some other huge blockchain players. And when it was time to really like build the actual infrastructure, the actual system, like I could pick up the phone and say, all right, guys, like we're through proof of concept. We're about to like really hit the ground running and try to build something phenomenal. And so I was able to pick up the phone, call Hedera Hashgraph, build on their layer one network, pick up the phone, call Chainlink, have them do like the Oracle system for, the information that's gonna, flow through our app, and then also call Coinbase and have them do like back end custody for, the tokens, things like that. And so, it's been a blessing to be able to like talk to these people and be really, I mean, I guess in partnership with them and work with them and all that stuff. So, it's pretty fun. I mean, like I had to take lumps to get here, and trust me, it took 2 years of people calling me crazy, but it's a fun place to be in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What have you learned as an athlete that has helped you so far, or you think will help you in building the company to this point and into the future?
Um, Probably resiliency and flexibility, right? Every day in startup world is different. Just like every moment in the game is different, and every year in the NBA is drastically different. You know, and then like obviously that speaks to both resiliency and flexibility, right? Like you got to be flexible and roll, and maybe tonight they want you to go score 20, and the next night they want you to cheer, and like all that stuff, and anywhere in between, and then just being resilient and kind of having that mental toughness to be ready for all those roles, but to also say like, okay, like this is the end goal, this is what I want to get accomplished, and we're gonna kind of, even if it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, we're gonna keep going in that direction.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, I guess, evaluating founders and companies differently now that you're, 2 years into doing your own startup? Like, or do you find that you relate easier to some of their problems or issues they're trying to solve?
Oh, 1000%, 1000%. It's not easy by any stretch. I think I probably have a little bit more sympathy for the sleepless nights and all that stuff, and then talking about how long they've worked on the product, or how many cups of coffee they've had, or all that stuff. I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, um, I like my startup wouldn't be in the place that it is now. Like it allowed me to take, you know, 5, 6, 7 phone calls like in a day. You know what I mean? Whereas like if we were during season, I couldn't have done that. And so, understanding where it is and where it can be once it's out and built and running, and we have, project management and other things on board and have already raised Series A is one thing. But when you're kind of getting through the muck of solidifying all the processes and forming these partnerships and quite frankly, they want to speak to the founder. They don't want to speak to, the contractor or anything like that. And so you have to take those calls and, shoot, after this, I want to take a nap, but I have another call that I have to, take, so like these podcasts are fun. Like when I can sit down with, my bro and kick it, but then I got to hop on the phone and be like, all right, guys, like, when are we getting this MOU signed? I need to make sure because we have forward-facing marketing initiatives on Wednesday, and we got, like, I need it signed now, or we can't say your name in the piece, and like, how's this gonna work? It just turns into a lot. So, I really respect them and how hard they work.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And then, who are some of your mentors or people you like working with so far in the venture space or the startup world?
Um, So my dad's not in venture or startups or anything like that, but he was in real estate. And I mean, I always shout him out when I talk about work ethic or resiliency or things like that, and just kind of having that understanding or general understanding of business. He's always my first go-to.
Yeah.
In terms of the startup space, I would actually say somebody that helps me out a lot is Sherrod, my boy, just because he got into it earlier than I did. He had a career-ending injury in college, and in terms of the mind of like a grinder and being like diligence, stick-to-itiveness, and all that stuff, like he definitely has that, and has put me in the room in connection with a lot of different people that have really helped me. And with that being said, obviously, then it's you have some of the big players, right? You have like a Jason Mendelson from Foundry Group, and people of that nature who it's just a pleasure to talk to, who have done phenomenal things in this world and in business. And that those are probably the stages of people.
Yeah, yeah. And then you mentioned real estate. Do you get into any other, I guess, asset classes, or you mainly focused, I guess, your hands-on time in the tech space?
I would say most of my hands-on time is in the tech space. Like I said, I have an appetite for risk, but
Yeah.
hard assets are typically where I gravitate towards because they make more sense to me than other. So you're looking at real estate, dabble in precious metals slightly, but mostly in tech as of right now. And then as my career matures and maybe my risk profile decreases, then I'll shift in.
Yeah. And I think I got to say, my dad was listening to my podcast. Shout out to one of my loyal listeners, but he said I should be putting on a financial disclosure that nothing is advice
That's
or
good
anything
advice.
like that. So I got to add that in there for my dad. But I got to talk about cryptocurrency, which is probably a good transition to put that disclaimer there. But how did you first get into crypto? It's something I've been trying to learn more about, especially the last 6 months. But how did you first get into that, and how do you see it going forward?
I first got in 2017, which is actually right before the famous rise and then fall. I was using like Vegas gambling money at the time. So I didn't get rich by any stretch. People always say like, "Oh, you were in it," but like, trust me, I wish. I wish. But no, it was at the prodding of one of my friends who works in the financial industry. And I just finally caved and kind of did it. Once it crashed though, but didn't die, like I started to like read about it because it was kind of like, whoa, like what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, how did it do what it did and crash and then not die? And it caused me to learn about the technology as a whole, and really kind of divide like cryptocurrencies versus like blockchain technology, right? And so blockchain technology technically underpins all of those digital assets that like in the whole ecosystem, but cryptocurrencies are the ones that are trying to like replace traditional currencies, right? So you got Bitcoin as a store of value. It's designed to be, digital gold in a sense. You got other currencies that are trying to, maybe be private or replace the dollar, all types of stuff. Then, you have like blockchain technology as a whole, which the premise is just based upon liquidity and transparency, right? Like it's these open ledgers that allow you to transact with kind of like trustless trust, right? Like you don't have to trust me, you don't have to trust Deli. All you gotta do is trust like the ledger, right? And it's fully transparent. You can see it, all that stuff. And so I took those premises and applied them to, the basketball first, but the entertainment industry as a whole. And so that's kind of how this whole thing happened, but also how I kind of broke it down, started to understand the blockchain, rather the digital asset space, and kind of my blockchain for dummies in a sense, I guess, is how I interpreted it.
Yeah. Um, how do you see athletes investing in building companies going forward? Because it's something that I guess has definitely changed the last 5 or 10 years, especially where athletes would usually just sign an endorsement deal, promote a product, and get paid a fee. But now they're taking equity, they're starting their own companies. How do you see it moving forward from here?
I just think it's a natural evolution, man. Like, I think the more we learn about how life actually works and the value of ownership and the value of, generational wealth and longevity, and that there's only so much cash that we can really spend in our lifetime. Like, in terms of just like a normal range, like you start to build for the future. People have families, they start to take a longer term approach. And so with that being said, equity is typically that longer term boom bust approach rather than, $10,000 in cash or something like that right now that, maybe I can go and I don't know, you can't buy a car with 10 grand, but you know what I mean? Like, you can go do something, right? And versus like, hey, like, I'll take the equity, I'll bet on the company, I believe in it, I'll help this company grow, and maybe that company is worth $1 billion one day. And people are taking those types of bets more frequently now.
Yeah. Are these conversations that you're having with guys in the locker room? And if so, like, who have been some people that you've either teammates or people around the NBA that you like talking to about this kind of stuff?
Two of my favorite people to talk to about finance and NBA were actually Trevor Booker and Ed Davis. I think they're brilliant people. I know Trevor Booker was or is in the VC space for sure, and I know Ed Davis watches the stock market more closely than anybody I know. So, it's always fun to talk to people that are well versed and have differing opinions and can kind of stimulate conversation in that manner.
Yeah, yeah. Spencer, that's all I had for you, but I'm really excited to follow Calaxy and see that up and going, and appreciate your time today.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Matthew Daly. And while you're there, check out the Daly podcast playlist for more episodes. Thanks for tuning in.